Hello, good evening, Wednesday evening, everyone. Welcome to the New Left show. Um, I am the MC, Andrew, and we've got CJ right over here who will be producing. And then what we'll do is, and so these are all our guest co-hosts. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to go around to everyone since I realize that there are some new faces here. They can introduce themselves, say their name, and like a couple of things that they are particularly passionate about. And then we will get started on talking about some topics. This has been a very much of a heavy week, I think, in terms of what's been going on. Yep. that is definitely a reaction to have, right? And I think there are definitely a lot of layers, and it's necessary to kind of unpack a lot of what is going on. And so hopefully, we're hoping to do some of it justice, realizing that we do have limited time as well. But the topics that we hope to get to today is we're going to start off by talking about the recall election. Right? What just happened there. And we're going to tie in a little bit of direct action with election, which, I know might sound a little bit like they kind of are opposites of each other, but we're going to try and make it work. And you'll see a little bit as to kind of why we're doing that later on in the show. We're going to talk about Andrew Yang and the potential. It looks like he's going to be starting a third party. I know a lot of people have different reactions to that, so we're going to be unpacking that a little bit. And then we're going to end by talking about some recent uncovering of some things that have been happening in Afghanistan as well. So a lot to get to. We'll get right to it. But first, like I said, we'll start by everyone just sort of introducing themselves. So let's start with how about we start with Michelle, and then we could work our way to Z, then we could do the top row, and then we can end with the bottom row from left to right. Does that sound good? And I'll clarify too. So Michelle, how about you can start by introducing yourself to everyone.
Hi, my name is Michelle. I'm a registered Green Party member in California. I'm on the leadership committee within my county of Santa Clara County. And I am a disability advocate and activist. I'm also a multi-cause kind of person, focusing a lot on economic justice, as well as the unhoused and other issues. And that's me.
Thank you, Michelle. All right, let's go to Z.
Hi, my name's Z. I am currently, I voted for Green Party, but I'm in South Carolina because we don't actually have like a official parties here. And I am currently a stay-at-home dad, helping my wife while she is going to school for law. Particularly right now, I'm pretty much passionate in, I've been gardening and trying to do some agriculture, and I've been getting particularly interested in community.
That's awesome. Great. And so, yeah, let's go to, we could go, I think I said to the bottom next, right? So we'll go to the bottom. So how about Frank, if you want to introduce yourself?
Is that?
Oh, Francis. You mean Francis?
Yeah, Francis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm Frank. I have been working on the Unbroken Circle Ranch project this year. Our goal is to inspire people to build sustainable living communities for houseless or in dangerous situations in cities, get them to some place where they can provide for themselves. And it's really rewarding, even though it's the most difficult thing I've undertaken my entire life.
Great. Mohammed, take it away.
Uh, hey, hi, hello everybody. My name is Mohammed. Uh, I'm 22, recent grad, relatively recent, I guess. Um, just moved to Boston, and I think my main concerns are, you know, climate justice, um, healthcare, healthcare inequality, and economic justice, I guess.
Did you say you just moved to Boston?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
well, welcome to Boston. You live in the same city as me.
Yes, yes. Where are you at? I'm in
Awesome.
Dorchester.
I'm in JP. Yeah, so awesome, cool. Good to know. All right, so we'll go from left to right, and then CJ, if you wanna
Sure.
say anything final too, and then we'll round it, and then we'll go from there. Savage Joy, you're up.
Hey, I guess most people know me from my show. I've done a live stream independent media show for over 4 years. I just branched off and went on my own for the first time. So you can find me at Savage Joy Marie Man on YouTube. And I am 85% blind, and I'm incredibly passionate about Medicare for all, but I have been before I became disabled as well. But a lot of you may know me as being one of the lead national organizers on the 56 city marches we did in July. But I'm passionate about pretty much everything in the universe, but that's kind of like my top tier item right now.
Absolutely.
Great, awesome. Thanks, Savage Joy. All right, Ike, you're next, and then we'll go with.
Okay. My name is Isaac. I am a former lifelong Democratic Party voter, a disgruntled voter, disenfranchised voter. Currently working as in a hospital as a hospital clerk, swimming in a sea of suburbanites who mostly don't want to hear shit I have to say about what's going on in the world or my place in it as a Black American. So I'm just looking for an outlet and trying to be that voice that more of us need to be. I don't know. I'm just trying to do whatever I can.
Great, thank you.
Here.
And then, is it Ball Intelligent?
Bot intelligent,
Bot
but my
intelligent.
name is Lorraine. Hey guys, I'm Lorraine, and I'm politically independent right now. I used to be a Democrat, but I am tired of bullshit, and I'm passionate about truth, integrity, and honesty, no matter what form that comes in, black, white, red, blue, I don't care. I am about truth and honesty and making sure that we are living in a society that is beneficial for everyone. I am just tired of sitting back and hoping that that the people that we have looked up to, the people that we have appointed and voted for to represent us, are corrupt. And so I am ready to take things into my own hands and do whatever I can to make as big of a difference as possible, and being able to work with other people to inspire other people to seek truth.
Great, awesome.
All right.
CJ, go for it.
Yeah, I'm Jay. Then I got to Twitter, became Compton J, and got to FHL where there's another J, JB, and they gave me the name CJ. So that's how I got the name CJ for Compton J, just because we had a lot of J's.
Yeah, I was confused.
Yes, they kept saying Jay, and both of us were response, and then they said, "Well," he said, "Well, just call me James," and I said, "Well, that happens to be my actual name. It's just that everybody calls me Jay." So that's where the name came from. But what I'm passionate about right now is trauma, and that's trauma from oppression. So I want to take a lot of leftists or a lot of left-leaning people, thinkers, and I do this too. You're attacking issues from an economic standpoint, from humanity standpoint. What I want to do is point out how these decisions have traumatic effects, and so that's what is sort of my passion, pointing out how capitalism has a traumatic effects on kids and the poor. I just did a show with a professor from Columbia on that. So for me, that is what I'm passionate about. Just all of these decisions, the wars, these, suppressing wages, they have an effect beyond economics. It has an effect on your psyche, and it's traumatic. So that is what I'm passionate about.
That is so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very well said. Yeah. So on that note, what we'll do is we'll get started with the topics and everything. And I think definitely what CJ was saying just now, some of that in some ways plays into what we're going to be talking about too. And so, yeah, I think one thing that always, before we get into it, I think one thing that I find interesting about a lot of these topics is that there are multiple layers to it and multiple ways to look at them. And I think it'll be beneficial to kind of have all these perspectives here to really bring to light some of these things as well. And so, yeah, on that note, let's stop talking about what we're going to do and just get to it. So the recall election. So real quick, just to kind of talk about what just happened there, what just happened last night with the recall election is it was an election on whether or not to recall Gavin Newsom from being the governor of California, right? And so if Gavin Newsom were to have been recalled, he would have been the second governor in history to be recalled, I believe, in California, right? Interestingly enough, Arnold Schwarzenegger, which I recently learned, actually came into being a governor because the previous Democratic governor was recalled on certain issues. So, interesting fun fact there. And it's interesting. I'm sorry, was someone going to say something? Okay. No, so we'll go. Okay. But so basically what I found interesting is that the petition to get Gavin Newsom to get recalled actually was originally for different reasons than what it kind of ended up being, right? So think about it even started, I think, prior to like the COVID-19 pandemic becoming big. A lot of Republicans started actually putting up a petition because they were angry that there were high taxes, high regulation policies, and that he was being too favorable for immigrants, right? So classic right-wing, problems that they were trying to recall Gavin Newsom on, right? A lot of that changed when Gavin Newsom was found. So because of COVID-19, he shut a lot of things down and they told people that they could not go near others, right? Close by to other in large gatherings. Well, it so happens that he was seen in Napa at like a large fundraiser with a lot of different people, essentially doing the exact opposite of what he told people. The classic, like, I'm rich, I can do whatever. I'm going to tell you can't do that, but I'm going to break the rules, right? And so that infuriated a lot of people across the ideological spectrum because here he is lobbying in big crowds while everyone else is, businesses were shut down. People, are economically depressed because they can't work, right? And not getting appropriate benefits. And so that caused a lot of other people to sign this. And 12%, I think the percentage was 12% of voters have to sign it in order for the recall to go into effect. And so that is essentially what happened. And so for the recall, from my understanding, and people in California can also Correct me if I'm being a little wrong here, but there were 2 questions on the ballot. 1, should Gavin Newsom be recalled? And 2, would you vote for instead, right? And so a certain amount had to be yes, I think over 50 in order for the second option to count. And so here we have like a bunch of different candidates on there all across the ideological spectrum, right? We got some Green Party members, we got Democrats, we got Republicans, and now it becomes this whole thing in terms of like, let's defend Gavin Newsom, right, at all costs. And the whole Democrats kind of go on. So that's kind of where we're at now in terms of objectively kind of what happened. So I'll start with CJ and then I'll go on with Michelle for this question, because I think it's important that we get a little bit of a perspective from people who live in California, right, under Gavin Newsom's reign. So as you know, so CJ, we can start with you. As someone who lives in California, what are your thoughts on sort of how Gavin Newsom has been doing? What are some things that he is particularly maybe neglecting or have gotten worse under him or have not changed it at all and he's done nothing about?
Gavin Newsom, I mean, he's your typical, Democrat who believes he's going to be, before this recall election, I saw him as the person that will be running for president in 2024 or 2028, whenever it was open again. And it seemed like he was setting himself up pretty well for that corporate run. He's been a governor that has been just non-effective, a Joe Biden sort of governor where it's, just keep the status quo how it is. And I'm not trying to really rock the boat, but I think he was particularly bad with the homeless population or the homeless problem in California. He was particularly bad. Both sides didn't really, like him. The affluent crowd that just wants the homeless gone didn't really like him. They didn't think he was doing enough. And then, the people who were advocates for the homeless just felt like, he wasn't doing enough to help them. He didn't really do anything about the police state. Nothing about, let me remind everybody, California is a super Democratic state and we don't have Medicare for all. Okay, so that tells you that the Democratic Party is not for Medicare for all. We could easily pass Medicare for all in our legislation if we're talking about Democrats and Republicans, but it's not going to happen. So anyway, Gavin Newsom was particularly pissed off conservatives with the lockdowns before he was caught out, mingling. They didn't like, because I think California was one of the first states to even have stricter restrictions. And I think we were one of the first states. So, that kind of already, pissed some people off, some powerful people off in the state. But what I think, because he was set to lose just last month, but the problem or if you want to call it a problem, was Larry Elder is terrible.
Yeah.
Like Gavin Newsom is terrible. So Gavin Newsom times like 10. Like Larry Elder is absolutely disgusting. And if there was any other person leading in the polls, I think Gavin Newsom would have lost. Yeah. But because Larry Elder were leading in the polls, and in California, whoever is leading it don't matter if you win with only 10% of the vote. If you're the top vote getter, you become the governor. So technically, the governor could have been recalled and had 48% support, and then the person replacing him could have won with 19% support, which was Larry Elder. So when Larry Elder became the front runner, That's when the Democratic establishment and Gavin Newsom decided to make it about Larry Elder and tie him to Donald Trump. Larry Elder has tons and tons of footage of him just saying crazy stuff because he's been a radio host in California for several years. Like, just crazy stuff, like about women, how reasons why they don't do as well in certain areas as men. And he was constantly attacking the Black community on a daily basis, So that was the wrong candidate for conservatives to run because he was terrible. Like, he is awful. Just some of the things he would say. And so that's what lost the election. If they had a different person, Gavin Newsom, I believe, would not have been reelected.
Yeah, and real quick at the beginning, it's funny how you say that Gavin Newsom was sort of almost anointed to be like president. Back in my more liberal years, before I was really as much aware in terms of how terrible liberals are, I would sometimes watch Bill Maher, and I remember him dropping Gavin Newsom several times. Like, I can see him be like. Yes. And now looking back, I'm like, oh God.
Yeah, he was in line. He was definitely
about him.
Yeah. So let's take it over to Michelle in terms of your perspective on Gavin Newsom, because you're also in California, and I know you also have some perspectives, particularly with what you do and kind of how he's been.
Yeah, so the recall was problematic for a lot of reasons. One of them is the existing voting structure and how, as you guys pointed out, you've got the majority of people required to vote yes on the recall. So say 51%, and then you're electing somebody in that office with, as you said, less than 10 or 20%. That person could then become the governor of the state of California. So I first moved to California when Arnold Schwarzenegger was the governor, and suffered through the 2008 budgetary crisis the state of California had. So through that crisis, it was very evident that even a central governor or left central, which both is Democrat or Republicans, but the left center or the right center rather, how much damage they could do, how much damage could be done to communities that are placed at the margins and the intersections of oppression in our society. So this whole thing cost a lot of money, and it was set up in a way that the candidates that could get on the ballot had very short period of time, and it was a huge entry fee to get in on the ballot. And then, of course, there's a larger fee to get your statement printed and other things along those lines. So all of this adds up, and it creates the structure that we have. And this structure is based in corporate America, and it's based in the problems that I have with Newsom. Newsom has done well during the pandemic for me. He has made the hard choices. He has made the choices that ideally don't place those most at risk, further at risk. Now, he failed in that too, because he removed disabled people from the vaccine rolls. He, early on, we didn't get the vaccine early on. We had to wait until March, I think, was when I was able to get mine. But then the advocates and activists in the state were able to push and get things back reinstated. So all of these things, environmental stuff, he walks a corporate line. He walks the kind of the, can't think of the green tech, the smart tech type stuff that, again, is all supported by the money stream. It's who funds him, who supplements what he's doing. So in that sense, the recall was a ploy to take California as one of the more progressive states and convert it into a Trump state again, basically, to put us under a Republican rule, and a Republican rule with somebody that said that reparations were good for slaveholders. The Republican who said the ADA is a useless document, which I'll agree, kind of, but not totally, not for the same reason.
Yeah, different reasons, I'm sure.
Yeah, very different reasons. So all of these things compound and they add up, and it makes a messier and messier and messier situation. And without knowing that, it's like, well, but you're for the recall? Sure, maybe, yeah, if we could get somebody better in there, but we're not going to get somebody better in there. Newsom does not follow through on promises. He's funded by the healthcare industry. He's funded by the real estate people. He's funded by all of those things. And of course, that's where his allegiance is to the owners and not necessarily to the workers. And we need more people that are for the workers, but the system that exists is already stacked against us. And that's the part that we need to make change. And that's actually why I'm grateful to be a part of this group and trying to educate and get word out about more things that need to change.
Yes,
Absolutely. Very well said. Yeah. So we're going to move on to kind of a next more broad question now. For those of us who don't live in California, I think it kind of brings out kind of elections in general, right, and how broken they are. And I think this election really kind of showed the fundamental brokenness of a lot of what's going on in the system. So I want to bring in, we can bring in Savage Joy on this question first. Curious to hear, what is your reaction to this whole recall election? And to someone who is maybe not as in tune with politics, how could you use this as election as an example to someone on why our election system is broken? And what actions do you think need to be taken when it comes to elections in general?
So as far as myself learning about this process, having interviewed over 200 candidates from across the country, I have seen the most jacked up election rules. And, I was like, what the hell's a jungle primary? Like all these things. It's so bizarre. And then this to me was also new. And, one of the issues that stood out to me immediately was, as, Michelle and CJ said, those things as well. But also, Newsom, this technically was a chance for him to campaign. Technically, it was a vote. It was, hey, vote for me. And what did he do? He sat there while everyone flocked to him.
Yeah.
Did things for him and did events for him and vote Newsom. What did he do? Did he say, I will do this, I will do that, I will change this? No, he didn't. He didn't say he's going to change a damn thing. He just said, keep me in. That's the first thing I noticed. I also shared a post on Twitter today where he was talking about how single payer is the way to go. And it was from 2017.
I saw that.
A big, long, wonderful post. But yeah, I mean, that should be everyone's first question. If we keep you in, this is your second chance. Why should we? Period. What are you going to do for us? Earn our votes. That's the first thing. And that's a lot of people just don't demand. A lot of people don't say, we are your constituents. You answer to us. We need this, that, and the other thing. And if you don't do it, we're not voting for you, period. And enough people said that, things would change. So that's the first thing that stands out. As far as, the process, it's completely, it's made to be confusing. It really is. And it is, I went to Iowa for 5 weeks to campaign for Bernard, and I had to learn caucus, and these people didn't even know what a caucus was in their state. It's the same kind of thing. People just think, oh, I just don't want change, so I guess this is good. But they don't understand the different variables. And yeah, I mean, it could have gone to someone else, but this is the epitome of they both suck, but this one's better. Great. We're still fucked. What does that mean? Nothing. We're still screwed. There are still people on the street. There are still people hungry. Better than does not mean good. The bar is so low, it is 6 feet under. People need to just start stepping up and say, fuck this shit. Furthermore, as far as a suggestion, we need ranked choice voting up in this bitch like yesterday.
Yeah.
Period.
Agreed.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I chime in on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to welcome Novi real quick. Novi just jumped in. Hi, Novi.
Hi, Novi.
Hi.
And yeah, sure, Z, go for it.
Well, I live in South Carolina on the exact opposite end of the spectrum on that one, and when I see Gavin Newsom, I see this dude who has like his coiffed hair and his like his nice teeth, and I'm just like, this guy looks like a douchebag. And when I see him, he has his big promises. Like I'm looking at this article from the Hoover Institution called "The Failures of Governance is Why the reason the state of California is getting bad and getting worse." And last year, he promised a Marshall Plan, what he called his Marshall Plan, to have at least 300,000 houses, 3.5 million new units of housing, affordable housing built by 2025. And there's been barely any movement on that. Those kind of things. He could have revived something like that. And then you look on the other side and you have Larry Elder, and you look at what he's doing. This guy has a movie that he's made called Uncle Tom, where he's called Uncle Tom, an oral history of the American Black conservative, where he's just trying to go around and like recapture that name, and he just makes a fool of himself. So it really is do you want Tom or do you want Jerry in this one? Like quite literally. So that's what I have to say about that.
Wow. Learning a lot about Larry Elder. I did not know. He is okay. Yeah.
Actually, can I ask a quick question to anybody who knows a little bit about Larry Elder? Like,
Sure.
It seems like I'm not from California, and I don't listen to conservative radio, so I haven't had much exposure to what he actually says, except for like maybe people dunking on him on Twitter or whatever. But it seems like, and I think it was in an article that was posted earlier. It was definitely an article that was posted earlier. He said, "I've been a politician for 7 to 8 weeks now, and stay tuned." So, what exactly is behind like the meteoric rise of Larry Elder? Does he have so much like organic support from California conservatives?
Yes. So it would be like Rush Limbaugh running to a lesser degree, where Rush obviously has a bigger name recognition, but you would have these staunch supporters just based off of his audience. And that's where he had the built-in support, is that he had the name recognition because he was a talk show host in California. And he was on, like, he wasn't like on a small station. I can't remember, it was maybe KFI or something like that, but he was on one of the bigger talk networks or show channels or stations. We're talking about radio. But the thing is, he didn't have a lot of support. He just had the most of because he only had 19%.
Mm-hmm.
So he's only polling 2 out of 10 people. It's just that everybody else is polling less than that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so it wasn't like he had this big swell of support. He just had that enough support from those listeners from his talk show that allowed him to be the front runner. Yeah.
Can I chime in?
Absolutely.
Yes.
So I just want to say that I think that right there is a part of what the problem is with our election system and with the whole process, as far as a popularity contest or the superficiality of choosing these people to the point where we have a choice between a shit sandwich and a douchebag. And so what I get scared about, or what I am concerned about, is how easily glamored people are, the masses are, in having us lift up these people because they're supported by this celebrity or this recognized name, versus looking at their record, versus looking at their history, versus trying to identify who they really are and where they really stand and how are they going to fight for the principles and what is best for people. And so that it's just so superficial. And I just feel like everything is a popularity contest. So,
Yeah. And that's funny that you mention celebrity, because we're going to get a celebrity's take on this in a little bit, which will be interesting to talk about. But I wanted to just quickly circle back to something that Savage Joy was saying in terms of the nature of Gavin Newsom just sort of sitting there, right? And as I was reading the recall, it was very interesting that apparently there's a law in California that allows the target of a recall to accept unlimited sums of money from wherever. So, I mean, when we say what we're seeing on the surface level, right? A lot of it, it's just like by design. By design, he had no incentive to do anything because he knew his big buddies.
Sit there and look pretty.
Probably his big buddies that he was lobbying with at that Napa place that triggered a lot of people to sign the recall. You know, we're just giving him wads of cash. So that just shows right there just how undemocratic and fucked up the whole system is. So yeah, we're gonna be going and watching Rose McGowan's take on this real quick, which will be interesting. For those of you who did not get to speak on this question, you'll be the first to kind of give your reaction to this. So yeah, just keeping that on mind. But yeah, feel free to roll the tape, CJ.
I travel the world and I've had so many people say to me, Americans are the most uneducated. Not wrong, but they are wrong in this. It's undereducated. It's systematic, and it's done to you all on purpose to keep you part of a complicity machine that benefits few. This is not a country or a state for everyone. This is a country for the few. This is a country for people like hair gel in the Bahamas. Okay, that's the reality. And I really wish I had better news. It gives me no pleasure to be the bearer of like truth, which is sometimes ugly. But do you want a society that has gangrene on its leg, but puts on a fancy suit and pretends it's not there while they hobble in pain? Or do you want to just stop, look at reality, take your medicine, clean up the wound, and run? Run free. Why not change? Why not go big? Why not put a stake in the heart of evil? Because that's what this really is. This is good and this is evil. And if you're tired of people looking at this country like it's the Florida of the world, which it is, looked upon that way because, you know, it's earned it in a lot of ways. I know this place has it in it to be better. I know it does. I've met so many good people in this country. Not the elites. Absolutely not. But the person I meet, you know, that's the housekeeper at the hotel I'm staying at, who shouldn't even have that title because she's a queen of a woman. And then we have the Jennifer Siebel Newsoms of the world. Why? Why do you keep choosing that? Why do you keep electing that? Don't listen to their buzzwords. Cult leaders, which is what these people are. I would know. I grew up in one, like I said. They massage your mind. They keep you in fear. They keep you in doubt. I kind of suspect on the inside that this is all a lie, but I don't want to be the one that stands out and takes it on the chin. Well, I'm here to confirm for you it is a lie. It is a fact.
All right, so
And that is Rose.
Yeah.
a couple of things to clarify in terms of the whole general context of this, because you're probably wondering why on a leftist panel we are watching OAN. So this happened to be her endorsing Larry Elder, okay, and that's what the speech. Her speech was endorsing Larry Elder, and in addition to that, part of what she was also talking about is, you know, Gavin Newsom's wife, who she mentions in that clip. She's saying pushed her to be silent when it came to the whole Weinstein scandal, right? So just giving a little extra context of what else is going on, because I feel like some of that may affect kind of how you kind of react to what she is saying, right? And so I think there's definitely a lot to unpack with what she said. So let's start with it's Isaac, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's just hear some of your initials reactions to this.
Well, I don't know what her politics are really, honestly, and I don't know why she endorsed um, Black Rush Limbaugh. I don't even know his name, honestly.
That does. It's fine, I guess.
I don't even know his name. But everything she said was true.
Yeah.
Everything she said was true. So I'm sure I know most of her enemies are shit libs, so I'm sure they're going to let that video fly all over the internet as proof that she's some kind of right winger or something, and totally gloss over everything she just said. But everything she just said is true, flat out. And we know her history. I mean, so I don't know. I support everything she just said. That's out of whatever she said about Larry Elder. I have no idea what she said about him.
Let me chime in on Larry. I don't know if anybody can tell me if she said anything good about Larry, but I think her endorsement of him is more of something that's against Gavin Newsom than it is for
anti-Gavin. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, she could clearly read and know that this guy's not going to win.
Mhm.
So that's what I think. That doesn't make it necessarily better because he is awful, but she has this personal thing with him.
Yeah.
And I think that played into her endorsing Larry. But she's not necessarily a leftist. She's just a person, an independent thinker, and a lot of her views align with leftism, and that's why leftists kind of like her or gravitate to her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's all I wanted to say. To chime in with.
Yeah. Let's go to Novi. What are some of your thoughts on this? There you go. You're good.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think she's having issues. Yeah. Go. There
yeah,
you go.
The mic button keeps acting like it's turned off, and it's not. I can't wait till I get back home and actually am able to use my computer and my setup instead of my phone by the bed in my in-laws' guest room. Anyways, so most of it, I was just like on board for most of it. I thought it was pretty good. A little bit of it was kind of talking about Matrix level things, which isn't wrong. I did think it was a little weird that she was talking about the housekeeper at the hotel and saying that she was a queen of a woman. Not saying that the woman wasn't a very nice woman, but it just, that phrasing was a little odd. And I don't know, I thought it was a little strange. But I'm just listening to this and going, this is really good. I just wish it was in support of a leftist candidate. Instead of Larry Elder. But, if this information could go out there and it opens people's eyes about saying, hey, there is an issue and it's okay to speak out about it, then I don't really see the harm of it. I just not sure how effective it was. So.
Yeah. Mohammed, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah. For me, this radiates a lot of like 2016's like vote Trump to spite Hillary kind of energy.
Yeah.
And it feels like rather than positing any like positive reasons to vote for Larry Elder, it's negative reasons to vote for not a Democrat again.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. And I think that the anti-establishment, like good versus evil kind of rhetoric is kind of, it's a double-edged sword, especially when it can be like used in this kind of situation. Yeah. But yeah, I'm not quite sure where she lands in like on California politics. It does feel like kind of a slight against Gavin Newsom, which she has a personal beef with him. It is what it is.
Can I chime in real quick?
Yes.
So Rose and I have DM'd many, many times. She actually asked me to run for office, and I'm pretty much a leftist. So I think she's just, in the discussions we've had, she is just very, very anti-establishment. She doesn't consider her, like, she's like me in the fact that I consider myself politically homeless. I don't care about parties, and she really doesn't either. And, she is more issue oriented, and she's more like, fuck the patriarchy, fuck the corporate stooges. And, one thing I will say, I didn't know much about Larry Elder until you guys informed me on this show, to be quite honest. But one thing I will say, learning this and knowing that she did say that about Newsom's wife, I want people to just take the perspective that this is a woman who has been through hell, who has been raped, sexually victimized, who has been harassed, who has had death threats, you name it, for years, who has been disbelieved, who has been, shunned, who has been told to keep her mouth shut. And when someone does that to you and their husband is running for office, you better damn well believe you're going to try to make sure they don't win. Right. Period. And the reason I say that is because let's look at Juanita Broaddrick. Bill Clinton raped her. And what'd she do? She supported Trump. Right. Doesn't mean she supported Trump. Maybe she did. I don't freaking know. But the fact of the matter is she didn't want Hillary to win because of that association of what her husband did and also how it affected her life. And I think there is absolutely some of that trauma that was speaking for Rose.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate that take. And honestly, like my initial thoughts were a little different, I think. And I still have kind of maybe a little nuanced take of it that's slightly different than what I've heard, but I really appreciate hearing that perspective. And I think goes back to there's multiple different, people are complex. There's multiple different things that lead people to do certain things that may seem antithetical to what it is, right? I mean, I think the biggest thing is that people felt, even though there were so many candidates in that race, right? We are in a system where people felt like you had to do one or the other, right? And here, Rose McGowan, is it McGowan or McGowan? McGowan. Okay. Here she is, facing her trauma, and to fight it, she has to endorse Larry Elder, who has probably traumatized many other people in different ways, right? And for different reasons. And here you are at a time in a terrible economy. People are out of work. People are struggling. And you're going and you're endorsing a candidate who said literally, I think ideally the minimum wage should be $0, right? And so it really, I think it's just an interesting way. And I think another way of looking at it too is it's like, this is a type of activism that is kind of just something of her statue that she felt like she could have done. And I think, so now I want to kind of switch to kind of talking a little bit about other types of activism that we've been seeing this weekend that doesn't involve feeling like you have to endorse a horrific candidate. And so, CJ, just if you want to pull up this clip now. So
Absolutely.
This is part of the protest, and actually conversation with leftists, I believe, in the show before this, showed this clip as well and talked a little bit more about this. So feel free to check that show out too if you want to also get some perspectives on this. But as you all know, there was a Met Gala that happened in New York, and AOC, I think she attended, right? I think she came to and outside there was a BLM protest going on in result to police brutality. And I think it's just really important we highlight this child who really, really kind of just spoke truth, right? And so if you want to just play that clip, CJ, go for it.
Absolutely. Here we go.
Black and brown people are on the brink of houselessness. Yeah. We demand for normal. Where was the raise last year? $35,000 for a fucking ticket to show your fucking wealth while our people are still dying. Our people are still dying. Our people are still being murdered. And there are millions of dollars going to this museum. We demand free housing. We demand all political prisoners to be free. Oh. We demand justice for our people.
Don't lock us up in here. What the fuck are you doing, bro? You gonna chase me up on the block? Get out of here, bro. Get out. You trying to chase?
Yeah.
Yeah. And as many of you probably know, from there, things escalated. There was definitely a lot of police brutality and violence involved right outside of there. When at the same time, and this is actually something I learned earlier today, in New York, there was like a white supremacist march and the cops were protecting them, right? So, just business as usual in terms of how these things go. Right. So, I brought this up because I think it kind of brings this into, and let's see here. Let's see who we can get in first. Maybe we could get Michelle and Z in on this. It seems to me that when it comes to fighting against the status quo, there are different ideas along race and class lines regarding how it should be done. Do you agree with my statement? And is there anything that I'm missing? And if so, what? And is there anything else you would like to say about this video? Let me know if you need me to repeat the question. I know it's kind of long. I believe, Z, I passed it on to you first, right?
Can you repeat that for me one more time?
Yeah, sure. I know it's a little long and loaded. So it seems to me that when it comes to fighting against the status quo, there are different ideas along race and class lines regarding on how it should be done, right? And some examples, right, maybe like force the vote, march for Medicare for all, right, where there was definitely disagreements along that. So do you agree with this statement? And is there anything that I'm missing from that? If so, what is it? And is there anything else you would kind of like to say about this video as well in general? So.
Well, as far as I don't think you're missing anything. And as far as the video, it just shows the state that we're in, and it's very depressing to watch, to be honest. It's very depressing to watch. I think we have to find better ways to get through to these people because they don't care. They don't care at all. They have their money, and at the end of the day, they're going to protect their class. And like you're saying, when it comes to the race and class lines, those we have different types of elite in our races too, and it's just it gets murky, and people need to start educating each other, and we need to start being able to take criticism from each other that from outside perspectives that we usually wouldn't be privy to, because I would say a lot of people generally will take. Sometimes criticism can be taken as attacks, I would say, and a lot of times things, I guess, especially on the social media space, where a tweet can be misconstrued as an attack, where if you were just to be talking in face to face, you could actually, come to an agreement or come to an understanding, opposed to where if you're just tweeting at somebody, it could just come off angry or, just the wrong way. Yeah. Like texting, any type of that kind of medium.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Definitely. And I think I like that you said that too, because I think that's something in this day and age with media and internet, we forget that a little bit. And Michelle, what do you have to say?
So a lot of what I do in my professional life is actually supporting progressive movements in Santa Clara County. in various ways with very limited resources, but yet we're trying to boost the on the streets type action, as well as the social change stuff that's needed to create change. So with that, there is a divide with class and race and, you know, the issues somebody picks and chooses, and it's a position of privilege. You know, it's like, as a white person, I go home and I can be white and I don't have to worry about racism because it's not going to be in my sphere. But for many people, they don't have that experience and they live with it all the time. So I've seen this divide, you know, of there's these groups that activate around these issues and these groups that activate around these issues. And sometimes there's no bridge between the two different groups. So with that, you end up with people that don't understand why people are taking to the action the way that they do, which to me, any action is going to be good at, you know, it's not, you know, I'm not somebody that sits on the fence and says, you're doing it wrong, you know, because each of us bring our own skill sets and own talents and own process to what we're trying to do. And with that, we need to bolster everybody else. We need to create a platform for this young woman to actually be able to be heard and speak and say what's in her heart. And it goes back to something CJ said about, you know, the trauma. You know, each of us carry trauma with us. Each of us carry trauma with us that impacts how we engage with other people, how we, you know, do all of these things. And oftentimes I really think that things like social media and the media streams, the paid versus unpaid, liberal versus conservative media sources, you know, all funnel people in a certain direction. So the people with this set of experiences, they can stay in their ivory tower, or they can, you know, kind of use academic jargon, but they can stay there and they can point fingers and never realize that they have every other finger pointed back at them. And I think that that's important to remember and to recall. And it's all of our jobs to do this. It's all of our jobs to choose the battles that we can, but not always the battles that we're comfortable with. You know, it's not about our comfort. It's about making change for the collective good, making it so these young people today are no longer traumatized just by breathing in this world, because that's what's happening. And that trauma, you know, everybody walks around with PTSD anymore. It's like, how do we survive? And then we judge people because they're angry. It's like, why are we judging people because they're angry? They may have chosen the wrong word. And social media does this too, with the corporate people that run social media. You know, it's like, I think it's designed almost to keep us in that cancel culture, you know, and to keep us in our trauma and keep us diverted away from what we're trying to do and what we need to do to reestablish the human needs that we have, away from the corporate stigma that everybody wants to attach to those human needs. And we're ultimately not a lot different. You know, it's our experiences that make us a whole lot more. And I think we need to really start to connect, you know, in spaces that are not so emotion laden to actually bring about this change. And that's probably enough.
No, I really appreciate you said that. And I think one thing that I think really, I think it's so true when you say the issues that people plan to focus on, right, really kind of determines on class. And so I'm not going to say it's a specific group, but there is a group near me that is involved in local politics, and they consider themselves a progressive organization, right? And have stopped going to their meetings because there's only so much I can take. But I think one thing that really stood out to me is they had a meeting on Zoom with my Congresswoman, Presley. And they talked about issue. First of all, Ayanna Presley never mentioned Medicare for all when she said what she was working on in that meeting, right? But when they talked about initiatives that the group was going to work on, right? Medicare for all, if it was said, it might have been like issue 6 or 7. And I think that just shows, I mean, just if we look at the demographics of the people who are in that group, it's majority white and it's majority like well off. Women, I think, are the top demographic, then men. Homeowners around here, own things, right? So I think that just really just shows like and how it's
They're not
just
worried
like
about it.
they're not worried
Yeah.
about it. They're not thinking about it, right? Gun control was the number one issue they brought up.
Yeah, and I think that that's an important piece to kind of really sit with, because we have people in prisons that don't receive health care. We have people in prisons that don't receive food, adequate food, that end up with high blood pressure, that end up with conditions that will kill them, you know, which is kind of the design of everything. But yet, yes, we need Medicare for all. Yes, we need universal health care. I won't even call it Medicare for all because there's a mixed bag with that. But,
Exactly.
you know, if we can't reach the realization, it goes back to the human needs. What are our human needs? You know, wealthy, more well-off people, they have health care. Why do we need Medicare for all? You know, why do we need this? And the arguments they use still fail to include like the disabled people in the room, the Black, Indigenous people of color in the room. All of these groups of people are not always represented in those policies and those platforms, but yet technically I don't have the time to rewrite every platform that I encounter that leaves disabled people out. So there's just this ongoing struggle, and it's tax the rich. That's where, you know, tax. That's where I'm at. Yeah.
Definitely. I know, David, you joined us recently, so I want to kind of bring you in on this. Do you have anything additional to kind of say about this? Before we move on to the next question.
Sure. When it comes to activism and getting out there and the message gets heated, it should be. If you're not angry, you're not paying attention. And unfortunately, the police are there to suppress us and to suppress dissent and to suppress the First Amendment rights when they're there supposed to be protecting these rights, when they've made a sworn oath to protect these rights. So unfortunately, you know, I call it a democracy of minimums. And I'm here in Minnesota, and I've seen it myself in person. I've seen the police target reporters. I watched them. They shot a reporter's eye out. It's all there to discourage. And so I want to hear people that are angry, and I know it turns people off. But at the same time, if you're not angry, you're not paying attention.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Can I chime one more thing in really fast?
Yes.
Can I as well?
Sure, go for it.
Well, I was just gonna say,
so Z first
the anger is definitely awesome. It's just that I think the issue has been that we have had an unorganized anger for so long, and it has been running rampant, and it has been just destroying the wrong people. We need to organize the anger so we can be more strategic with it, so we don't get it used to our disadvantage. And that's all I want to say.
No, thank you for saying that. Novi, what's up?
Okay, so my community is a little different. As you could, like, in case anybody didn't know already, I'm Muslim, you know, headscarf, everything. My community where I grew up, there are some college-educated people, but they aren't being paid very well. And a lot of them are immigrants, and largely minorities. There's a heavy number of disabled people, like I'm disabled. So our manner of protest is a bit different, because we can't, if you can't walk, you can't exactly march, or you're immunocompromised. And same thing if you're an immigrant, or if you are visibly of a religion that when people see you, they automatically want to arrest and harass you, as I have been harassed. So even then, there are things that can be done. One of the things that we found a lot of success with is wearing masks and going to Capitol Hill, Louisiana. It's like this really ominous building, and meeting with legislators and bringing it in writing and talking to it and speaking and having people who can speak the best speaking forward, and that's one of the things that we've been really successful at. But the policies that you have to be that you're focused on all go back to what she was saying about, you know, your needs, like needing rent control, needing like improvements to infrastructure, so that whenever a hurricane happens, people get power a lot sooner. And people with medical supplies can get the power they need. And then reducing police brutality, maybe making it so that we're not having to put a electronic gate in front of the mosque, which I know that doesn't sound like a big deal, but it's really frustrating. Working on the environment and things like that. But and Medicare for all, which is extremely important for everything. And beyond that, we need a national healthcare system, and we needed it yesterday. Yeah. But one of the things that I think that it causes a lot of issues on social media and when talking with other people. If you can't do certain things, like if you can't march or you can't meet with a representative, people can oftentimes look at you like you're not actually protesting. But there are things that can be done. And sometimes it needs a little bit of creativity, but you can protest in your own way. And I don't think that's something that is repeated often enough.
Yeah.
Well said.
Well, definitely. And so I wanted to bring Savage Joy in.
I'm sorry, can I say one thing about
go for it.
That whole subject? I feel like there's so many different things that different people can do. And like Novi is saying, like she does what she can do.
Mm-hmm.
Like me as a poor person, like I want to get out on the streets and I want to grab fucking Molotov cocktails and like riot. But I'm one of those people who I go to jail, I'm literally homeless as soon as I get out. That's just almost how it is. But if you can go out there and you can take to the streets, So when I see that video that we just watched, I'm screaming with her, like, yes, we need more of that. We need more of that. And it just all revolving around nobody wanting to listen to or acknowledge Black pain. Not specifically just Black pain, but that's a big part of it. And so, like for me, so what do you do? And this is to everybody in here who might work in an environment where there may be an outsider. So how do you handle navigating your anger and your acknowledgement of the outside world? Like for me, in an environment of just suburbanites who are just totally uncomfortable. They want to talk about all kinds of what they consider real shit. But when you mention what you got going on or your reflection or your perspective as a Black person or as a poor person, it's just the conversation instantly gets shut down.
Yeah.
And so how do you navigate that? I work in a hospital, so I feel like a lot of responsibility is on me to, because patient care is the number one thing there. So these nurses are saying racist stuff, just offensive stuff towards poor people. I feel like a lot of my responsibility is to not upset them for sure, but how long can I do that? How long can I tiptoe around white feelings? And so there's this big moment where, my supervisor was called in a disciplinary meeting. They presented, it says that here that you told somebody that they're racist. First off, why is that presented in a disciplinary meeting? Like, right. What if somebody was racist? First off, if I call somebody racist, they're racist.
How's that unbelievable?
Yeah. Right. So my the nurse manager is a Republican, and she as a manager has actually had diversity training, but none of the nurses, none of the other staff has had any of that. So
let me speak to that just for a moment.
Okay.
And because what I did a show with Nick about white America is not interested in Black pain, and it's kind of along the same lines.
I saw that.
And this, my take on what you're kind of saying is, it's the coddling of white America. It's like American white culture not to be upfront and frank. It's about coddling. It's about whitewashing. You know what I mean? It's never a direct conversation. They have like softening language has to be used, and not direct language has to be used. It's because that's the culture that has been developed out of trying to keep white American secrets, white American atrocities from white American children. Every generation we have to talk and discuss this is because white America doesn't want their children to know what they did to gain their prosperity. They don't want them to know we raped people, we killed people for no reason, simply because we wanted this land. So that is what we're up against. And me and Liv, another friend of the show, we're talking about this on Straight Out of Politics, where she said she used to live in the white privilege bubble, and her moving had just abruptly brought her out of that. But she said it wasn't even intentional.
Yeah.
It's not intentional a lot of times. It's that if you don't have any sort of contact, and every image you see is a criminalized image on purpose through media, through television, and Hollywood plays a big part in criminalizing brown, and they play a huge part.
Yeah.
Because whatever the politician or whatever the discourse, or let me rephrase that, whatever the white discourse about race is, that's what Hollywood does. And then I'm going to leave you with this. Black pain in America is only told through comedy because white people don't want to see the reality. So you have shows like Good Times and Sanford and Son, all about oppression, but it has to be told through the lens of comedy because white America don't want to see what they've done.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my take on that, and I'll give it back to the floor.
Can I just wrap up what I was saying real quick?
Absolutely.
That's so true. And this all started. I figured out what the incident was. It all started from when the schools were about to reopen up back in the spring. I pointed to some poll about how 86 or 87% of Black Americans did not agree with the schools reopening, and that really rubbed some feathers the wrong way because I asked a few people to acknowledge why that's not important to them. So it's like that real everything I've said for years working there, that was the one thing that really, really rubbed people the wrong way. And it's almost put me in a position to where I'm kind of like an outcast there.
What state are you in again?
I'm in Michigan, and this is in Ann Arbor, like liberal utopia. You know, so
is that where is this where Amy Cooper called on the Black Bird Watcher? Is that what that is, or no? That's New York.
I think it was in New York.
That was New York. Yeah. So my bad. Yeah, I'm confusing it. So yeah, I'll go back to you.
That's exact flavor of a lot of the people that are living out here. That's the perfect flavor of liberal that is out here.
Could I say something piggybacking on that?
Absolutely.
Based on agreeing with what Novi said, as far as us doing everything that we can to make a difference, us doing everything that we can to take action and be activists. Because I live and I work in an environment that tends to be, I'm definitely the poor person surrounded by privilege. And so what CJ also said, as far as making the truth about the atrocities from the past being palatable for those people. And that is the only way to get through to them. And so being honest, being direct, yet it being in a palatable way, I have found is actually effective, because when you're able to have them empathize with you as a human being, right? So you have a relationship with the people that you're taking care of as a nurse in the hospital. They're empathetic with you. They feel compassion for you, and then being direct, and then being honest. I have found has them start to question, because just like he said, a lot of those people, they're clueless to how oblivious they are. And I just have found that I've been able to have people question their thinking and have people wake up a little bit to what's going on outside of their bubble. And not saying that it's made a huge difference. I'm trying to do everything that I can in the best way that I can with, out getting fired, without losing clients, but I also make a point of interrupting their thinking, because they need to wake up. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's helpful, but that's something that I've seen works a little bit.
It is. It's like, how do you make helping people acknowledge white supremacy in a white culture dominated environment? How do you make that more palatable? How do you express that environment that they're living in and benefiting from? How do you make that more palatable? It's
You
almost kind of
can't
like,
really make it palatable without sort of sugarcoating. If that's the question, I feel like that's the real question you're trying to ask me, is that, or ask us, is that how do you make it palatable without sugarcoating it? You can't.
right.
You have to sugarcoat it. And I think what I take from what she's saying is you sugarcoat it to get in, and then you tell them the whole story.
Like the sweet coat of
you get what I'm saying?
Advil.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, you sugarcoat it so you can get your way in, and then when you're in and they feel comfortable, that's when you say, "Let me tell you the real story of what's happening here."
Right.
So I think that is almost like a natural thing that you develop. I feel like that's kind of what I do all the time.
Right.
But sometimes you're just gonna just ruffle some feathers, and sometimes when you're living in this oppressive environment, sometimes you're angered, especially being the only black person and the only black male on the unit. Man, I can't raise my voice. I can't say, it's just like, so it is something that I'm constantly thinking of anyway.
Politics of civility. And the politics of civility is a politics of the oppressor. It's because they want you to be able to, let's take this in the terms of slavery. They want to be able to, send your 3-year-old kid, sell him off or her off, take you to the barn, rape you, put you in the field 16 hours, and then you complain without showing any anger.
Mm-hmm.
The absurdity of that. The absurdity of that, but that is the civility of the civility of politics, civility of conversation. That is all to cover up for those types of things, in my opinion. And I get that from Nick. I want to give the right credit, because he's somebody who, Nick from FHL, he brings that up and makes that point about the politics of civility is a tool used by an oppressor.
Yeah,
that is so true. I remember when I had an incident at work, not to keep going on because I'm gonna let other people talk. I had an incident at work, and a confidant texted me, and she had just read that vapid book, White Fragility. And she said something in the text that I totally agree with everything you said, but when people see your anger, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what chapter in that book, White Fragility, did they tell you to tell your black coworker to watch their anger and express empathy, but to point out that they shouldn't be angry? It's just, so I just wanted to point that out, because I thought about that.
I'll pass it back to you, Andrew. Go ahead.
Can I just say something super quick?
Yes.
The only thing I find that works in any topic whatsoever, and I know, like, as a white chick, this is like totally, different. But one thing that I use is individual situations. I find that when you don't talk about like statistics and numbers and percentages, that people are pretty desensitized to that.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's more advantageous to talk about people let them put a face to it, let them feel the pain as you describe what this person went through. and if they're nurses, I sure as hell hope they have empathy. So
Definitely.
I mean,
pretty much all of
hopefully-
them do.
And white
Hopefully
supremacy
that'll
is
Nurses in a
help.
children's hospital for sure.
And one last thing, white supremacy is indoctrination. Like anybody who's indoctrinated like that, when you start telling, not even just white people, when you start telling them the truth, they will just start going crazy. Like if you just gotta give them a little bit of time sometimes, because they will just. I've seen being in South Carolina. There's some crazy people who would just be like, "What?"
Well,
and you just gotta be.
Let it breathe.
And I think
it's not always.
Yeah. And I think going off your point a little bit of white supremacy being indoctrinated and such, when we're looking at, our education system, right? Like, and we look at how not only is our history continuously being cut due to standardized tests, but the history that oftentimes is in schools, particularly in some districts, is the complete wrong history.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember, I did not go to school in Louisiana, but I remember seeing them showing a passage that students were learning in school in Louisiana when talking about the Civil War, and they centered it on the slave owner losing how much they lost throughout the Civil War, right? And so when we talk about indoctrination, this is the most impressionable times in children's lives when their brains are developing.
Yeah.
And this is the bullshit that they're
Yeah.
being fed. And so when we talk about empathy and how people are not understanding empathy, our education system does not teach people to deal with empathy, because they're always like, oh, we're not going to talk about that. That's too much. Oh, we're going to make it so that white people, and I realize I'm saying this as a white people, feel okay, right? And feel like there is no past stuff that gave us the class, the status, the race status, the class status that we have in this time, right? And so that's just something also, we could talk about our corporate education system all the time. It's not the end all be all to these problems, but it definitely plays a significant role in that as well, too. And
can I say something real quick?
Yes, go for it.
Speaking of the education, how it, basically really coddles the white supremacy and hiding the truth from children. I grew up in Texas. Texas has the standard for most of the textbooks, at least in the South. So, yay! Sorry, guys. Anyways, they made updates in which there were token minority individuals who were heroes, like somebody who served in World War II, and I can't remember his name, but he was a escaped slave who took control of a ship during the Civil War and attacked the Confederates. Things like that. There were there was something interesting that I was thinking about, because I still have one of these textbooks. Is one, all of these were soldiers. Every single one was a soldier in some form. And at the same time, they were talking about the Civil War exactly the way you were talking about, how what the owners had lost, and they very downplayed it. And they barely talked about Reconstruction. They didn't talk anything about the brutality and everything going on, or the coup that happened. The only reason why we knew anything about what was going on in anything about the actual history in when I was growing up is because our teacher was a Marine veteran and a member of the NAACP, and he would basically talk to us about everything, and we learned about stuff that was going on. And he almost got fired for talking about the fact that we had race riots in Paris, and we had one of the highest rates of people getting killed on account of their race between the end of the Civil War and the Civil Rights Act. So, and he managed to save it by saying, like, well, the debate team won state and I'm the coach, so he managed not to get fired. But the education system is so abysmal and it's clearly designed that way. We stripped history down to its bare parts. You put it in this awkwardly shaped thing so it appeals to white people's sense of superiority, and I'm speaking as a white person. And then you just spoon feed it to people. So when you grow up, you don't understand what's going on. And then the professors who are writing this information, they're still people to this day propagating this idea that African American children don't study as hard because they don't want to seem smart, which has been proved wrong and racist as fuck. And sorry, I have to be careful. It's my in-laws' house, but it's racist as hell. And this stuff isn't changing because the history from the bottom down sinks to high heaven, and we have to dismantle it. And the people who are writing the history have to be verified, and a lot of them need to be kicked out of their jobs.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so really appreciate all the perspectives that were brought to this. This was definitely a very heavy topic to talk about, but it is definitely necessary to be talked about because it's been suppressed for so long, and so part of it is just continuing to talk about it and talk about it to people, and hopefully it comes to so guess we'll go on to our next topic. Andrew Yang. CJ, real quick, how are we doing on time? Just so that you're muted. Still muted. Oh, here.
We actually have, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so we actually have until 7 my time. What is that? 10. So we have 30 minutes if you need it.
Okay.
So take as much as you need of it or as little as you want.
Perfect. Okay. All right, everybody. Ready to talk about Andrew Yang?
I may need the whole damn half hour myself.
All right, so that's a yes. Okay. So I'll just read the top of this. I mean, there's not that much to this article, and it's also Politico, and they also are terrible. Just thought I'd just drop that. They suck. They're awful. But they reported on this, so we're doing this. So yes, CJ, if you could just scroll down a little bit, and then let me also zoom in myself. Let's see here. Okay, go. Cool. All right, reading time. Former presidential and New York mayoral candidate Andrew Yang is set to launch a third party next month, according to two people familiar with the matter. Yang is expected to start the party in conjunction with the October 5th release of his new book, Forward, Notes on the Future of Our Democracy. It's not clear what the name of Yang's third party will be or how he plans to deploy it in 2022 or 2024. Yang and his team did not respond to requests for comment. Suspense. But they did give some clues about the platform, which is non-existent. No, I'm just kidding. It writes, the book is an indictment of America's era of institutional failure and will introduce us to the various priests of the decline of America, including politicians whose incentives have become divorced from the people they supposedly serve. Mark Cuban endorses that. Mark Cuban's really known for shaking things up. But so that's really all there is to read about that. So I'm going to bring in Mohammed on this. Let's just talk. Yeah, tell us a little bit about what your reaction is to Andrew Yang starting a third party, and whether or not, let's just hear your thoughts, and then we'll go from there.
I don't know if Andrew Yang has truly lost the plot, or if he does genuinely think that he can, or if it's just a PR move, or if he thinks he has an actual chance. But it does. I mean, I have to think that it's just a PR, especially if it's coinciding with the release of his book, and he doesn't have really anything to say about it, except for a celebrity endorsement by Mark Cuban for his book, which I don't know, whatever. But it seems like Andrew Yang's golden egg of universal basic income just never hatched, and he is like desperately looking for ways to stay relevant. You know, it was clear he wasn't going to be the presidential candidate, right? Then mayor of New York was, I mean, that was just funny, right? But now this genuinely seems like a sketch on a bad comedy show. Like
Yeah.
a third party launch with no platform in a month, less than a month, I guess. Coinciding with the release of his book, it feels like he's just become a human PR machine.
Yeah.
What kind of party doesn't have any platforms?
And I think I just want to say that how serious are you that you're launching a political party that could elect the president, but you're launching it on the day you're releasing a book? That to me tells you that this is not as serious, and you want to keep it a secret. Like this is not serious. This is all to create a buzz around his book, and that's it.
Right.
And it's shameless. It's shameless. I don't know how many of you on this panel is anti-capitalist, but I'm anti-capitalist, and it's like you can't
100%.
give a second
I think that's a popular sentiment here.
without you trying to advertise to me. Like, can I have a break, bro? Can I have a break? Like, you're constantly trying to sell something to me, and I just can't have a break. So that's my take. That's what I get from this, is that they're trying to sell a book, and then they're using this to sell a book. Go ahead.
It's human-centered capitalism.
Mm-hmm. No, describe that.
That's
but say that. But
what
describe that to our audience.
That's not me being serious.
No, describe that to our audience. Describe what that means to our audience.
I don't know. He made it up. To me, it sounds like an oxymoron coming from a damn moron. I have
what did
no
you describe
idea.
it as? Can you tell us what is the phrasing again, Joy?
Cubicle?
Human-centered capitalism. That was the slogan of his campaign.
Human-centered capitalism sounds like a joke to me.
It means change nothing, but we'll give you $1,000 check to shut you up.
Right.
Right.
Right. So unserious, that's exactly what it is. So what is the platform of the most unserious politician on the planet? So
well, when you look at his history, he ran on UBI as far as the presidential election, but every other issue that he was running on was vapid. His foreign policy was, he basically supports bombing Israel, and he, he's all about the AI takeover, which is completely anti-worker.
So he's just Elon Musk, but like actually running for things.
Right. And then trying to act like he is for the people. He even got hired by CNN for a minute, right? He was going to be a commentator on CNN.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So everything for me about him seems like he's fame chasing. He is just, he's trying to rebrand himself. He's trying to be the popular guy, and he's loving the attention. He's loving the accolades, and losing his soul and showing his true colors as far as not being for the people. These people are supposed to be in service, and they are just so self-serving. And acting like we are stupid enough to buy it. And for the most part, people are glamored by it. But I think that now a lot of people are waking up. I think that's one of the things that I love about the internet and social media. I'm not a social media person. I grew up in the 80s, so I just got a smartphone maybe like 5 years ago. But one of the things that I love about it is that it is giving us an opportunity to connect with each other, to hear each other. And granted, there is anger, and granted that the way we are communicating is needs to tone down the self-righteousness for us all. But I am grateful for the ability to be able to hear other people's opinions and what they think, and get to know people's struggles and people's paths, and how we can come to a common ground. So as far as Andrew Yang goes, he is just the biggest poser ever.
I'm guessing once the book sales dip a little bit, then he's just his whole party is going to slink back into the darkness.
Right. Yeah. And actually, wouldn't this be the fourth or fifth party? Right. There's already several parties already. So he's just so about himself.
So okay, Michelle, you can go, and then I want to get, because this I think leads into the next question a little bit. But yeah, go for it, Michelle.
He's wanting to establish a new party and a party system that is already stacked against third parties.
Right. Right.
So he's wanting to establish this new party that will still be corporate funded, corporate enabled, corporate everything else. I used to be all for as many parties as we could get, but anymore, and the struggle as a Green is we get bumped off ballots. Right. We have federal laws that make the burden of running for office unreachable for the main person, for average person.
Right.
So we have these things. So how can he create something that is built into a system? How is what he's trying to create actually going to create any change?
Yeah.
Because the system is already rigged based on the corporates having ownership of those systems and the candidates that are running. And I still don't know who. I agree with the last person that talked. I'm spacing on your name right now. I agree with you that he's serving himself. All of his platforms served himself. He did a superficial overview of things to look pretty. And this goes back to Newsom, and he's a pretty package. He's a pretty activist, a pretty politician. He's
looks like
a
an
pretty
asshole,
person.
honestly.
Yeah, he is. But there's a lot of pretty packages that. And then you see the pretty packages getting away with things that somebody who's not pretty, like me as a fat person who uses a wheelchair, I get stigmatized and relegated to another space. And it's like, how can we fix the broken system? Not by putting another Band-Aid on it, but by truly investing people power into what we need and how we need to reach it. Because we need more people to wake up to that reality.
Yes.
What's up, Savage?
Okay, so all right. No. Andrew Yang is somebody I bust on literally every freaking day because his Twitter is so insane. He will post like during the basketball playoffs, like, I love basketball. And people are like, yes, king. And they make pictures of him as superheroes. And so as far as this goes, he's never talked about being a third party. He's never voted third party. When Bernard was running against Biden, Bernard, as a decades-long independent, aka third party, he didn't endorse him. He went with Biden. He knows shit about third parties, and it blows my mind that leftists are like, yeah, we need more third parties. Do you guys not realize how bad that is going to affect Greens, independents, MPP, whoever you want? This shit, this sham right here is going to absolutely set all of those parties back even further, no question. And as far as Yang as a candidate, he didn't want $15 minimum wage. He didn't want Medicare for all. He didn't want a federal jobs guarantee. He didn't, his whole thing was UBI. But the fact of the matter is, if you looked at his version, it would take away people like myself, our Social Security, disability. It would take away food stamps. It would take away LIHEAP. It would take away everything that people need and are living on right now. Furthermore, what does UBI as a solution as a whole do to solve inequities? Not a damn thing. It doesn't help people of color. It doesn't help women. It doesn't help disabled. It is giving every single person the same damn check and acting like everything's okay. So people think that he is like this great entrepreneur. But let's look at also the way he campaigned. He has guys get on their knees and sprays freaking whipped cream in their mouths. He crowd surfs. He throws out fake $1,000 bills with his face
Sounds like
on
a frat
them.
party.
Oh my God.
These are so disgusting. Like, this is disgusting. Is this what you're going to do? He literally has favorite billionaires. Literally. He says his favorite
Gross.
billionaires are Bloomberg. Why? Because they added more cops to New York subway systems. And Elon Musk, because he's cool. So, and yeah, he's like a total Israel shill. His foreign policy is ghastly. It is absolutely egregious. This man is dangerous in that respect because it's very, yang gang. It's very hive-minded.
Cultish. Yep.
It is so cultish, and that worries me. So a lot of people think he's great regardless, and they're not looking at how much he is setting things back. I honestly, and this may come out in the future, but I swear to you all, I think someone just said to him, you should create a third party. And he's like, yeah. Like, he's that kind of impressionable person that if you tell him, it's going to be like, it's going to get, likes and stuff. Like, he even said during his campaign, he wanted his campaign signal to be like, literally said that. Like, this is what he wants. And yeah, having it the same day as your book release, you're a fucking joke. You are a joke. And anyone who thinks this is going to help needs to sit back and think about this shit, because this is going to only hurt third parties, period.
Yeah.
Speaking of Yang, like, every time you even post anything about him, like some on Twitter or anything, some random Yang gang creature comes out of the cracks, and they're just like, no, UBI, and you're just
With
like,
the blue
where'd
hat.
you even come from? They literally come out of nowhere. It doesn't even make any sense.
Yep.
Like, he's a polar personality, and it doesn't make any sense. He is a
My question
he's
is
very vapid.
My question is, how do you start, Z? How do you start a party when you don't have any solid views on anything? You get what I mean? Like, what are you known? You're known for a UBI, but I don't necessarily consider that like a solid view. Like what? Like how? Like what is he? You know what I mean? Like what does the party come out and say? We believe in this, this, and this. Like we don't even know what he believes in.
I got something interesting to share.
Well, he didn't even confirm or deny. You know what I mean? If he's doing it, so I don't think he knows.
It's funny because I was reading something on Beto O'Rourke when he was running for city council. And this is kind of similar where he decides he's going to run for city council, and he starts knocking on doors. And he asks them, "Oh, like what's on your mind?" Two people are saying, "You got to do something." I don't know the specifics, but it's like, "You got to do something about that park. It's doing X, Y, and Z." He's like, "Okay." Knocks on the third door. He says, "Hi, I'm here to do something about that park." Right? And so that just goes of just like the norm of people just like running parties or running campaigns on nothing. just to do it because they want to be in the spotlight because they're meant to do it. It's their calling, and it's just it's wild.
Yes.
It's funny
Yang
because
terrifying.
I'm sorry.
Yang is terrifying. If he is actually a terrifying character, just because of that cold personality that could like blow up. It could just blow up overnight, like Trump. Like honestly, and just knowing like some of the things he has said, like the very authoritarian things he said, that is very scary.
Yeah. So I think this basically answers my other question that I was going to ask, where it essentially was, is this an effective way to break up the duopoly? Could this do any harm? What have you noticed he has either neglected or made worse? I think we all answered that, where mostly everybody is like,
I think Joy covered that.
Nothing good can come from it.
No, this is not going to do anything to break up the duopoly. No, it's not.
If anything, it further delegitimizes third parties. Because when you're laughing at Andrew Yang forming another third party, it's like, okay, now it's. I don't want it to be associated with Andrew Yang's BS.
I think this is the beginning of Andrew Yang launching something every couple of years. I think this is the beginning, and we're just going to keep seeing, oh, Andrew Yang is coming out with this. Andrew Yang is coming out with that. I think that's what it's going to be. Somebody said it earlier. It's just about remaining relevant.
Yeah.
It's just about remaining relevant. Now, Andrew Yang could have walked off with that race in New York when the landslide, based off his national recognition, but he has terrible positions because he's aligning himself with the Democratic Party. So that's why he lost. He could have walked away with that race. With his popularity, with his national recognition, he just had to pick the right policies, and he would be he would be mayor.
Yeah.
But hey, I mean, with his cringe foreign policy take with Israel and Palestine, he at least united leftists on Twitter for like 5 hot seconds.
Yes.
So that was good.
It was
lasted.
great.
Yeah. So
I'm
yeah, what's up, Novi?
I'm not saying. Oh, I was just thinking, even if he said he's going to launch a third party, no telling if he actually will. I mean, with his policies and stuff to begin with, who's not to say he won't run for Democratic presidential candidate again? Oh, that would be horrible.
Sure he will. Yeah.
Trump versus Yang. Because Trump's going to try to run again. I mean, we just know he is.
Rock.
Oh, he is. He is. Absolutely. It's happening.
Yeah. So we have
just a real quick
what's up,
thought
David?
on what it takes to break up the duopoly is you have to have a movement behind you. And we look at American history for an example. And right here in Minnesota, we had the Farmer Labor Party, but we had the Progressive Farmer Movement behind that break the duopoly successfully in Minnesota. And unfortunately, it didn't last. They merged with the Democrats eventually. So, I look at that history and I see what Andrew Yang is doing or maybe attempting to do. And what is he going to do? Without a movement, it's not going to go real far. But if he did have enough of a movement, what it would do is it would eventually merge back into the Democratic Party, just like it did in Minnesota.
Exactly.
They're like a black hole. They just suck it all in.
Yes.
Yeah. So what do we do then? What do we do if the Democratic Party is co-opting and sucking in every attempt to make this system better, either by way of adding a third party or progressive candidates? They co-opt and corrupt everything.
Yeah.
So then what is the solution? What is the solution?
What is the thing
Ranked
that I was
choice
thinking
voting.
about?
So someone said ranked choice voting, and I have to talk about ranked choice voting because we have it here at the city level in Minneapolis and Minnesota.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you what happened. Ginger Jensen, the Green Party candidate, won the popular vote, but because of ranked choice voting, it went to the Jacob Fry guy, the Democrat, because he was the number 2 choice. So as much as I support ranked choice voting, and I'm on the initiatives here to get it done in the state of Minnesota, because it eliminates that spoiler dialogue. But at the same time, we look at it and what happens, the Greens still get screwed. The third party still gets screwed because the second choice rules then.
But that is a very low position you're talking. The fact that that would happen on a national scale is very unlikely. And also, it would be a way that the Greens would get that 5%, that the independents would get that 5%, period. That is the most important first step.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that historically we've had 3 or 4 parties that were pretty successful, but this was in the 1900s and the early 20th century before they started cracking down on socialists and communists. What generally would happen is that they would have somebody split up and they would be able to do the movement and get things done. You could still get that accomplished, but we need, I hate to say it, but we need somebody who had the name recognition of Yang, but it's like the antithesis of Yang, if that makes sense. Like an actual leftist candidate to run for the Green Party who had enough name recognition that they would be able to move it behind them.
Do you mean like a Bernie Sanders? Do you mean like a Bernie Sanders?
Right?
Is that what you mean?
Somebody who has a question
Bernie Sanders could move to the Green Party and completely make that party viable overnight. If Bernie Sanders became the Green Party candidate.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about, because that's what happened with the Whigs. That's what happened with the socialists who run a lot of states and a lot of offices, industrial areas. That happened with every single third and fourth party candidate. If they were having somebody who had enough name recognition or clout behind them, they were able to get it done. We have to have somebody who is willing to do that and actually put their money where their mouth is.
Right.
Bernie and
Free soilers and abolitionists became the Republican Party. So that
exactly.
Yeah. The other piece to this, though, that I think is important to consider is the broken systems.
Mhm.
You know, they're writing things into every single bill, almost every single bill. I can't say every single bill, but they're writing things into bills that fulfill this person and that person instead of actually fulfilling the voters' needs. It's it is essential to get a voting rights bill, but the current voting rights bill that's in action restricts further third parties, non-Democrats, non-Republicans. It restricts them further. So there's this broken system. I do think you need that dynamic person that can show people these realities that are kind of hidden and buried. It's another system of operating that impacts everybody, but it's not always called out or called into a conversation of those barriers and those limitations. Everybody should be able to run for office, but it is so. I had a local candidate who was running for city council, and they did a great job with everything they did. And of course, the corporations and the developers and the other people ganged up and said, "No, we can't have you. You can't win." And they controlled it. So it's a broken system. It's more complicated than than just one dynamic person or a small group of dynamic people. It's almost like a multi-pronged thing. We have to focus at different areas in different ways.
So I want to throw a name out there. Just a show of hands, does anybody know who Winona LaDuke is?
Of course.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes, I do.
She's a
I have been
badass.
lobbying her to run for governor of Minnesota. And, it would be great because the Green Party in Minnesota has lost ballot access. But I just wanted to see if there's any name recognition, because she's been an environmentalist. She's been spearheading the Line 3 obstruction that's been pretty effective. And her message, and she has the movement behind her. It's like I get chills down my spine when I think of her being that activist candidate, getting us ballot access, and then moving her up quickly on a national scale for the Green Party. I think she'd be an outstanding candidate. I look at who we ran last time, Hawkins. He couldn't inspire a drunk person to drink. We need somebody who has it.
He was terrible.
But Angela Walker, kick ass.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like Dario Hunter myself.
Howie is
Yeah,
a good,
I mean,
Howie's a good
No.
guy, but Howie's a good guy, but he could, use a little more in the inspiration department. But I'm here as the producer to give you a 5-minute last call, Andrew.
Cool. So I just wanted to quickly, we don't have time to really show the video. It's a very heavy video too. But in terms of Afghanistan, New York Times recently released a video. We know that from in response to what happened in Kabul, there were 7 to 10 Afghanis who were killed with drone strikes. And a specific video came out of an aid worker who was working for an American, actually humanitarian company, and coworkers said it was him. Like it looked like when you watch the video, he was literally just like transporting jugs of water. Apparently, they interpreted that as explosives. They droned him and they killed him, and there's a video on it. And I think one thing that just infuriates me, I've said this word wrong several times tonight. What makes me angry and pissed is that when they're having hearings with Blinken on the removal of Afghanistan, the hearings are on the removal. It's not about looking into killing innocent people.
Right.
And so I think that's just one thing I want to just highlight is how fucked up things are going on right now. I was reading a little bit of how that hearing was going. We have to wait for Rand fucking Paul to say something about, oh, by the way, like, didn't you kill an innocent, like, humanitarian worker doing that? And then Blinken's just like, we're looking into it. I don't, right? And so it's just like our government and how it is run just encourages, and we kind of talked about this before, it encourages psychopathy, it encourages lack of empathy, and the fact that this is not front and center news, that this person was killed, and that there aren't hearings going on to try and figure out how that happened, and that it's not a scandal, blows me. But hey, we live in the United States of America, so anything's possible. But just wanted, I know,
hopefully we'll have time to kind of address it a little more in a future episode, because like you said, it is very important that mainstream media is not covering this, so we have an obligation to cover it. So let's hopefully we can do that. But if you could take us around the room, the table, yes. Andrew, for last words. I'm going to drop out for a second so I can do some back end stuff. So
okay. Yeah. So last words, and just kind of maybe just updates on some things you're doing, just quick. So we'll go to Savage Joy, Michelle, Novi, and we'll just work down words like that. Don't wait to be called on. Just you can just go right into doing it. So yes, Savage Joy, take it away.
So thank you guys so much for having me again. I love having these discussions that are not typed out. It's really nice. So you can, I wrote a shitlib parody book.
Yes.
And you can find that at savageandpat.com. And I, myself and Pat Cody, who is Peter Douche, he co-wrote it with me, and we are both flying to LA and doing a book signing next month. And we have some really fucking huge, amazing people who are going to be doing comedy there as well. And I'm not going to say who yet. But definitely go to the website, check out our book. And also, as I said at the beginning of the show, I've done a show for over 4 years, and for the first time last week, I went out on my own. So I'm trying to build my solo channel up. It's Savage Joy Marie Mann. I have Ford Fisher on Monday. I have a This Week's News show tomorrow. So I'm always having great guests and everything. So pretty please subscribe.
Woo.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'll go next.
I want to say thanks to everybody for being here. It was an easier conversation. I was a little, concerned coming in, but it was great. I do think there's still a lot of work. This is one way to do that work. And I appreciate the labor everybody's put into, and the knowledge and the time that everybody's put in.
Novi.
Here, it's really been going well, and I want to say everybody thank you for watching. I don't really have anything published. Hopefully, I will be back home in Louisiana on Saturday, where we will be continuing to work with trying to clean up after Hurricane Ida and the tropical storm Nicholas. So that's gonna be fun. Anyways, I'm gonna be working with some local groups in the area on the tech end of it, trying to work on organization and doing mutual aid networks, because as anybody who's seen these podcasts before knows, Louisiana, despite our culture and despite our food and music, it's not run well at all. So one of the things we're going to be working on is, in addition to fighting police brutality and the targeting of immigrants, is going to be working on environment and mitigation strategies, so that with these storms that are continuing, we don't all end up underwater, or at least we have a plan for evacuation of everybody possible.
David.
So the plan is to keep organizing outside the two parties. I'm the co-chair of the 4th Congressional District, and so that's my mission, is to regain ballot access. We lost party status in the state of Minnesota, and I'm going to work like hell that we get it back and we compete in the next race.
So thanks for having me on. It was great to meet and hear from all of you. I've learned a lot in just this past 2 hours. Don't have much going on, but thank everybody. I thank everybody for listening or watching or however you're getting this information. And much love.
So excited! I live in the same city as someone else on this show.
Finally, I feel like I've been isolated for so long.
I know, right? All right, Bail Intelligent.
Oh, thank you everybody for an awesome conversation and an awesome group of people. I'm honored to be with you all, and I am so excited to begin my journey in taking action towards a better future for us all. By the way, Savage Joy, I think I saw you on Jimmy Dore. That was the first time I saw you, and I'm fangirling right now. So, ma'am, yes, ma'am. So just saying, great. I was like so excited. I was like, oh my God, look at him. So, yes, thank you guys all for, just this great conversation. And I'm so excited to be working with you.
All right, Z. And then
I just want to say everybody was extremely awesome, and I was actually very nervous when I started. And by the time it ended, I was like, that was one of the most comfortable conversations I've ever had. And didn't want to leave. But I don't have much going on besides just help cleaning around the house right now, and I'm trying to get a book club going on. But we're going to be working on that behind the scenes right now. Me and Andrew have actually are going to start working on that actually tonight after the show. And if anybody wants to start reading a book, a good book to start would be Neil Postman's Public Amusing Ourselves to Death, Public Discourse in the Age of Television. And it actually is a really, really good book, and it describes how pretty much everything, our media types and politics has become show business in this day and age, and it's a really good book.
Yeah, believe it or not, the dumb left reads. Deal with it. All right, Isaac.
All right. First off, I want that book, Joy. I'm getting that on my payday for sure.
Me too.
I'm DMing you, girl.
Also, thank you. And Z, I know I was a stay-at-home father for years, so I know that you have more to do than just clean up the house. So don't be so hard on yourself. I know you got a lot of work to do. But I found every single one of your perspectives to be incredibly valuable, and no pressure, y'all, but that shit is on us to counteract a lot of the tone policing and control of dialogue that we're seeing from a lot of people who have let us down over the last few years.
Right.
So no pressure, but I'm willing to do this stuff with you guys, and I'm working on making a podcast myself, focusing on news commentary to counteract the TYT, kind of flavor.
We didn't even talk about Nina Turner.
I got so much to say.
Another hour. Sorry, CJ.
Let me know when I go.
We'll do it next time.
Okay. Yeah, I got plenty to say about that.
Yeah, that's a 12-hour show.
Yeah.
Too much news in one cycle. With all you guys.
All right.
Well, thanks for having me, everybody.
No, this was great, and it was really awesome to have everyone here, and we'll be back, same place, same time, next Wednesday. Some different faces, we're alternating in and out, but yeah. So thank you very much for joining us, and have a great night.
Yeah, everybody, hang on after the stream is over, please. Hang on just for a few minutes.
All right.
Okay.